Hey quilters, I'm so excited to be with you here today for this class. To start off, let me just give you a little background on myself. I'm Pam Heller, AccuQuilt's cutting expert. And while I've been part of the AccuQuilt team for nearly 10 years, I've been an avid quilter for more than 2 decades. I love the ease and speed of making quilt designs using the AccuQuilt system. Bright colors and modern blocks are my favorite, though I have been known to spend months quilting traditional and classic patterns. During my time at AccuQuilt, I've had the opportunity to teach a variety of classes, provide motivation and inspiration to our customers, work directly with our AccuQuilt retailers, host weekly live events, and test and design dies and patterns. Some would say I have the dream job, and I would definitely agree. In today's class, we will be talking about how you can use the shapes in your cubes to not only make bigger blocks using the grid system, but smaller blocks as well. We will show you how you can make different size cubes work together. Coming up, we'll have a quick review of the Go Qubes, but if you've not watched our Mix and Match Magic with Go Qubes class prior to this, it might be a bit confusing. If you're not familiar with all the shapes in the cube system, watch that class first for the basics about the cubes and companion sets. You can find that video and more on our website at learn.accuquilt.com/videos or on our YouTube page. Before we jump into class today, I do want to mention that we at AccuQuilt love having great deals for our quilters. To see all the current offers, visit accuquilt.com/party. Let's get the basics out of the way before we dive into the grid system. So now there are really important things to remember. The AccuQuilt system is 90% faster than rotary cutters or scissors. So what does that mean to you? Well, that means what used to take you an hour to cut out, you can cut out in less than 6 minutes, giving you more time to do what you love to do, and that's sewing. With AccuQuilt, you're going to get accurate cuts every single time. Our product is safe and easy to use. You can always cut up to 6 layers of quilting cotton at one time, but you can also cut flannel, felt, denim, wool, cork, and minky. Start with 1 or 2 of those thicker layers. All of our geometric shapes have a 1/4-inch seam allowance built in. And I'm going to tell you that you always want to cut on the lengthwise grain. It's going to give you a nice, tight, clean cut. And don't forget to use the appropriate size cutting mat. Now, if you aren't familiar with our cubes, they come in 7 sizes: 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, and 12. So let's take a look at the 5-inch cube and show you just how amazing our cubes are. All right, so here is our 5-inch cube. We're going to open it up and take a look inside. So the first thing you always want to do is pull the skinny one first. That way you don't break a fingernail. Inside there is a pattern book and a cutting mat. This pattern book's going to give you some tips and tricks on some blocks that you might want to make with your cube. Then we're going to pull out the 8 dies. Now quilters, remember, the shapes are the same in every cube. They're just different sizes. All right? So shape 1 is a square. Now, the cube system is based on a 4-patch system. So, shape 1, 4 of them sewn together is going to equal a 5-inch block. Don't think, oh, hey, I'm getting the 5-inch cube, it's going to have 5-inch blocks. No, there's some sewing involved, okay? So, every 4 of shape 1 makes the finished size block. Now, the rest of the shapes are going to equal, 4 of them are going to equal shape number 1. So shape number 2 in every cube are smaller squares. So we have big squares and little squares. And 4 of those sewn together is going to equal shape number 1. Shape number 3 in every single cube is my all-time favorite shape. These are half square triangles. Now, with our half square triangles, we've cut off the dog ears, and from this point here to this point here is a perfect 1/4 inch seam. 2 of these sewn together are going to equal shape number 1. Shape number 4 in every cube are 1/4 square triangles. And again, 4 of these sewn together is going to equal shape number 1. And we've also cut off the dog ears and allowed for that 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, those are the first 4 shapes in every cube. Now let's look at the next 4 shapes. So shape number 5 in every cube are small half square triangles. So we have big squares and little squares, big half square triangles and little half square triangles. Now some of you might think, oh, these little half square triangles, these are way too small, I'm never going to use this die. But actually this is the workhorse die of the cube system. So 8 of these sewn together equals shape number 1. Now, shape number 6 in every cube is not just a square, but it's a square on point. It's meant to live on its tippy toes. The shape that you're going to need to go around it is shape number 5, and then it will make a square in a square. Actually, that is one of my all-time favorite blocks to create. I love that block. Shape number 7 in every cube are parallelograms. Now the thing you want to remember about the parallelogram shape is that it is what we call a directional shape. If you want all of your parallelograms to go the same direction, you want your fabric to be facing up. But if you want to fan fold your shapes, then you'll have parallelograms that go into different directions. Now, what's that shape that we need on the outside to create a rectangle? Why, yes, it is. It is shape number 5. And if you want to know how big your parallelograms are going to be in your cube, then shape number 8, right here, are rectangles. 2 of these sewn together equals shape number 1. So quilters, as you can see with our blocks, we have all the same shapes in every cube. They're just different sizes. Now remember how I said that the cube system's based on a 4-patch system? Let me show you how that works. All right, so what I'm going to do is, this is shape number 1. It is a square, and I'm going to cut enough for a 4-patch. So I'm going to lay my fabric right here on shape number 1. And since I have a 4-patch, I'm just going to cut 4 layers of fabric. I'm going to need a cutting mat because nothing happens without a mat. Now today, I'm going to use my Go Big. But the 4, 5, 6, 8, and 9-inch cubes will actually fit through all of our Go cutters, including the Go Me. Since my Go Big is 4 inches wider than my Go fabric cutter, I can actually run 2 of these smaller dies in one pass. So if one die is 90% faster, 2 is exponentially faster. All right, we're going to give it a little love. We're going to slide our mat, don't lift, because there's a little bit of static here in the Dream Studio. All right, so now I've cut perfect shapes. I'm just going to lay it out just like this. So look how easy and how accurate all of my shapes are to create that 4-patch. All right, so quilters, the mix and match cube is really just the beginning. We also have companion sets, corners and angles. So the cube system gives you 72 mix and match patterns, and each companion set will add at least 72 more blocks to your quilting party for over 216 patterns. Those are free downloadable patterns from AccuQuilt.com. So now let's take a look at the companion set corners in our new 5-inch size. Again, remember the shapes are the same in every cube. They're just different sizes. We're gonna open up the box just like this. We're gonna pull the skinny one out first so we don't break a nail. And then we're gonna open up the next 4 shapes, okay? So the next shape in the companion set corners is this shape, and this is our chisel shape right here, okay? So again, the chisel is a directional shape depending on which way you want the chisel to go. You would want to either lay your fabric facing up or fan fold. And we've cut off the dog ears. Now, what's that shape that you're gonna need right here to equal a rectangle? Yeah, it's shape number 5 from the cube. Quilters ask me all the time, do I need the cube if I have the companion sets? And the answer is yes, okay? If you wanna get the most out of your cube system, you wanna get the original cube, the mix and match block, plus the companion sets, corners, and angles. So the next shape in our companion set corners is this shape. Oh, here, I'll turn it like that. There we go. So this is the signature block shape. And I really like this shape. It's a great way to bust up your scraps and use up your stash. And in order to create shape number 1, we're gonna add shape number 5 to either side of our shape number 10, which is signature block. All right, we are moving right along, quilters. The next 2 shapes work together. They are the bow tie shapes. And these are half square triangles. Look how tiny they are. The thing I love about the 4, 5, and 6-inch cubes is they're a great way to bust up your scraps. So all of the blocks that I made today were just made from my scraps. So you can make snowballs or bow ties using these 2 shapes. Isn't that fun? All right. So that's the companion set corners. And again, remember, all the shapes are the same in every cube. They're just different sizes. Now we're up to 144 mix and match blocks, right? Because we've added that companion set corners. So let's add one more companion set, the companion set angles. All right. Now, the companion shapes come with 4 dies. The mix and match block comes with 8 dies. There's something really important to remember, quilters. If you have the 5-inch cube, you need the 5-inch companions. The 6-inch cube, the 6-inch companions. It's not like your friends in real life that are different sizes, okay? They have to work together, so keep that in mind. All right, so we're gonna pull off the top just like we have. Pull out that skinny one first. And here are the shapes in the companion set angles. Now the first shape is this shape, and this is an isosceles triangle. You need to make sure, quilters, when you're looking at your blocks and your patterns, what kind of triangle is it? So it is the center for the block triangle in a square. So what we need is the next shape, which is shape number 14. These are the sides to our triangle in a square. See that? All right, now this is also a directional shape. You want to make sure you fan fold back and forth your fabric over that shape. Otherwise, you won't get a left and a right, and you want a left and a right, okay? The next shape is one of my favorite scrap busters. This is the kite shape. So look at how fun this is. And we've used the half rectangles from shape number 14 to create the square that is equal to shape number 1. All right? And then the last shape in every single cube is a trapezoid. Okay, I'm gonna tell you, quilters, I have never cut a trapezoid by hand because there is a die for that. All right, I don't even know how I would cut one. This one measures at 45 degrees, 1 3/8 inches by 4 1/4 inches. I got nothing. All right, so here's our trapezoid shape. Now you'll notice I used our workhorse shape number 5 on either side of that trapezoid to create the block that equals shape number 1. All right, so isn't that just amazing? So keep in mind, quilters, that the cube system is the foundation to building quilt blocks because it eliminates any math that quilters would have to do to make a finished block. Now that we have the basic overview stuff out of the way, let's get into the grid system. All right, I'm going to move my parts and pieces over here. Now remember, if you want further look at the cubes and the companions, watch the Mix and Match Magic with Go Qubes class first. All right, so now what is the grid system? Some of you probably don't talk about it like it's a grid. For example, a 2x2 grid is most commonly referred to as a 4-patch. And we're going to look at those in just a few minutes, okay? But before we go any further, I want to clarify some terms that I'm going to use throughout the class. All right? All right, so here is my 4-patch. I'm excited about this, and we'll talk about it here in a second. But when I refer to parts and pieces of the block, we're going to talk about elements, all right? So the elements are just the different shapes that you would use to put into your block, okay? There we go. All right, so in this case, I have 2 half-square triangles, I have a square, and I have a rectangle. Now, a unit are the elements sewn together. So watch this. If I'm going to take my 2 half-square triangles and sew them together, all right, this now becomes a unit. It's equal to shape number 2, right? So it becomes a square. Now, excuse me, if I sew all 3 of these together, you have 2 choices. This could be a unit within a bigger block, or it could be a standalone block. It just depends on your pattern, okay? So elements, sew them together to make a unit, sew the units together to make a block. This grid system is really going to be great to help you with pattern translations, because I have found that quilters look at a pattern and they're like, oh, I don't know what to do here. I think I can make it with my cube. How can I make it? Okay? So here is my tip of the day. When you're looking at a block trying to determine the grid size, you want to look for the smallest unit. And I'm going to tell you that it is most likely 99.9% of the time going to be a square. But it's important to remember that that square has to be able to stand alone within the block. Okay? All right, so let's just talk about it real quick here, and then we're going to show you some quilts. So here is my 2x2 grid. Okay? We have 2 columns and 2 rows. This is my smallest unit. It's a square. It could stand all by itself. All right? So as we look at these patterns, let's look for that 2x2 grid. All right. Now, let's look at this. This is a fun quilt. It is called Go 4-Patch Fun Quilt. And it only uses 2 shapes to make the quilt. So here is shape number 2. And here is shape number 1. So in this particular quilt, you could make a 4-patch within a 4-patch, because here's my standalone unit, right? So a 4-patch within a 4-patch. I think that one's fun. Okay, the next one uses our Go Cube 6-inch mix and match companions angles. Okay, so it is called Pinwheel Kite Throw Quilt. All right, so let's look at this, because there's all sorts of things going on here. All right, so this is our block. Do you see it right here? 2 columns, 2 rows. Okay, This is our standalone square. This is the kite shape, and these are those half rectangles that stand on either side. And then what's this shape, quilters? Yeah, it's the trapezoid shape. And in this particular block, we use shape number 3 and shape number 5 to create the square. So again, look at all this really yummy, scrappy goodness because we've used our 6-inch cube. It's a great way to bust up your scraps. I love this pattern. I think it's so fun. All right, our good friend Lee of Be a Quilter made the Go Rainbow Swirls throat quilt. And this uses shapes 2, 3, and 4 from our, and 5 from our brand new 5-inch cube. So let's look at it, okay? So here's our block right here, okay? And here is our flying geese shape. Did you know that there are flying geese in every cube? Shape 4 is the quarter square triangle for the center, and shape 5 is for the outside wings. So here's our square, and here's our 2 columns and our 2 rows. But then Bea went on to show you how you can use 2 cubes together, because this makes a 5-inch finished block, and she used shape number 1 from the 10-inch cube to create this square in the center. So this is a really good example of how you can use cubes together. I think it's really fun. I really like this one. All right. Now, here is the question of the day. All right, if you own an 8-inch cube, these are made from the 8-inch cube, can you make an 8-inch block? Everyone say yes, okay? Now, if you own an 8-inch cube, can you make a 12-inch block? Everyone say yes again. And how can you do that? Well, we're just gonna take, instead of the 2x2 grid, now we're gonna create a 3x3 grid. Look at this. All right, shape number 1, ooh, it needs a haircut right there. There we go. Shape number 1 in the 8-inch cube finishes to 4 inches. So 4 and 4 is 8, 4 and 4 is 8. But if I make it in a 3x3 grid, 4 and 4 and 4 is 12. And 4 and 4 and 4 is 12. So now I've taken my 8-inch cube to make a 12-inch block. Now, if you have a 5-inch cube, can you make a 7.5-inch block? Why, yes. 2.5 and 2.5 and 2.5 is 7.5 by 2.5 and 2.5 is 7.5. Now you can see how each of the different size cubes can work together, because I can take a 3x3 grid right here from my 8-inch cube. What size block does it make? 12 inches. And then I can take a 2x2 grid from my 12-inch cube and make blocks that are the same size. Think about that, quilters. Think about how you use your blocks together and how you use your cubes together. Don't just say, oh, I have the 8-inch cube, it only makes 8-inch blocks. Okay, way more than that. We're gonna talk about it. Now, I wanna take just a minute here to talk about, I have so many things over here that are fun. I'm gonna move them right here. Okay, I wanna talk about the 3x3 grid, because sometimes I think we get in our quilting head that the grid might change if the block sizes change, but that's not really true, okay? So we're gonna start here with a 3x3 grid. This is a classic churn dash, okay? And where's the standalone square? Right there in the middle. So this is a 1, 2, 3 by 1, 2, 3 grid, okay? And this makes a 12-inch block, okay? Now I used a different size cube. The block is smaller, but did the grid change? No, the answer is no, okay? It's still a 3x3 grid, right? So now we're gonna get a little bit smaller. Did the block size change? Absolutely. Did the grid change? Nope. All right, so it doesn't matter what size the block is, the grid is gonna stay the same. All right, and I have two more. All right, so this one we made with our cube and some of our strip dies. Is this still a 3x3 grid? It is, okay? And look at this one, this tiny, tiny little turn dash, okay? Is it still a 3x3 grid? Absolutely. And with the cube system, look at this. I can make a, there we go, 3x3 grid within a 3x3 grid. I know, it's just amazing. The cube system is absolutely amazing. Now, I've worked for AccuQuilt for almost 10 years, and I would tell you, if I came to an event or if I saw you at a show, I would say, you know what, you can always take your cubes and make bigger blocks, right? We can take the 8-inch cube and make a 12-inch block, 6-inch cube, 9-inch block, and so forth. And then I was at a class one time, and someone said to me, now, Pam, you know you can make smaller blocks using the cube, right? And I thought, what? And then I thought about it, and it was this huge aha moment, and I said, oh my gosh, yes, we can. So think about this for a second, quilters. Your cube has larger elements, 1 and 3, and it has smaller elements, 2 and 5. And sometimes in your blocks, you're going to use a combination of those larger elements and those smaller elements to make bigger blocks, but you can use those smaller elements to make a smaller block. Let me show you how. This is a friendship star. It's a really classic, sweet little block. I used my 6-inch cube to make a 4-inch block. Isn't that amazing? So think about that, quilters, all right? You can use those smaller elements, because this is shape 5 and 1, or 5 and 2, to make a smaller block. I just think it's amazing. I love the cube system and that ability to change. So before we get to our trunk show, let's look at some blocks that we can make with our 3x3 cube, or 3x3 grid, okay? All right, so now let's look at this. This is a classic pattern. What block is it, quilters? Yeah, it's Ohio Star. And for this block, you only need 2 shapes from the cube, shape 1 and shape 4, all right? And what's the standalone block? That center square. So we have 1, 2, 3 by 1, 2, 3. Now, this one, I like it because we've changed the color in the center so that it looks different than the outer blocks. And that's the great thing about the cube system too, is it allows you to create those different colors. All right, so here's a star block that we used with our companion set angles, because here's triangle and a square. Where's our smallest standalone square? Right there in the center. So again, this is a 3x3 grid. So when you're looking at quilts, quilters, what's the smallest standalone square? Now, this is kind of tricky, and that's why I put it in here. All right, so what grid is this, quilters? Now, some of you are going to give me some pushback, and you're going to say, oh, Pam, right here, this is the smallest standalone square. So it's going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 by 6 grid. And I'm going to tell you, nope, this square does not stand alone. It's part of this half square triangle. So think about when you're translating patterns, where is the true standalone square? This still is a 3x3 grid. All right, now this block is one of my favorite blocks because it makes me crazy. All right, first of all, let's figure out what kind of grid is it. It's a 3x3 grid, right? There's our standalone square. Again, don't be fooled. But this block was made with quarter square triangles that were all the same color sewn together. Okay, in my quilting head, am I going to do that? No, I am not. What shape am I going to use instead of sewing 4 quarter square triangles together? Shape number 1. All right? So that's another thing to look at. Sometimes in a pattern, because if they're older patterns, it will say cut 4 quarter square triangles and sew them together to make a square. Now, there's a die for that. All right? All right, so now let's take a look at some of the quilts that we have in our trunk show using our 3x3 grid. Oh, look at this one. So this is that Friendship Star table topper. And again, we used our smaller elements, made a 3x3 grid, right? And instead of an 8-inch block, we made a 6-inch block because this is the 8-inch cube. So 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6. All right? Next, this is really fun. This was made with our 8-inch cube. It is called Card Trick. All right, I want you to look at this block because it gives that illusion of having another block behind it, right? Like a card. And when you look at this, you're going to think, oh, I'm just going to cut this right down here in the center, and it's going to be a 2x2 grid. But actually, if you look right here, these are half square triangles, and this one is a half square triangle and 2 quarter square triangles to create that square. So this is the standalone square. So 1, 2, 3 by 1, 2, 3. This is a 3x3 grid. All right? All right, our good friend Kay England made this beautiful quilt. It is called Starry Path. And do you see the beautiful block in the center? What kind of grid is it, quilters? Look hard. Okay, so here's our block, right? It's that 3x3 grid. Here is triangle and a square. Here's that trapezoid shape with shape number 5 and 3. And then here's the center square, which actually has trapezoid, trapezoid, and shape number 5. So when you look at this quilt, it gives you all sorts of secondary patterns, even though this is the block. I know, isn't that cool? All right, our good friend Marjorie Busby of Blue Feather Quilts made this beautiful shoe fly quilt with our 5-inch cube. Hold on here, I'm gonna fix it so we can see it. All right, so this is our 5-inch cube. Here's our shoe fly block. Do you see it? All right, now what kind of grid is it? Right here. Well, where's that smallest standalone square? It's going to be here, or you could do the center. Okay? So this is shape number 3, shape number 5, and this is that bow tie shape from the companion set Corners. Here's flying geese, shapes 4 and 5 in every cube, and here's flying geese in the opposite colorway. So this is a 1, 2, 3 by 1, 2, 3, 3x3 grid. We used our 5-inch cube quilters. How big is the block? 7.5 inches. Good job. All right, so I have a little trick for you. This block here is called Hens and Chicks, all right? And I want you to look at it, and I want you to tell me what kind of grid is it. Okay, just take a sec. Some of you are going to tell me it is a 2x2 grid with some sashing in the middle. But I'm going to tell you that it is a 5x5 grid. Let me show you how, all right? Where is the smallest standalone square? Right there in the middle, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I used my 8-inch cube to make a 10-inch block. Could I also make 10-inch blocks using my 5-inch cube and my 10-inch cube? Yep. Could I use my 4-inch cube and make a 10-inch block? Yeah, you can, all right? Now, the thing that you need to remember is that sometimes shapes take up more than their space on the grid. For example, see this rectangle? It's like people on airplanes. Have you not sat next to somebody and they've taken up way more than their seat? Okay, the same thing happens in the grid system. So this rectangle actually takes up 2 places on the grid. And this half square triangle right here takes up parts of 3 spaces on the grid. So that's why I tell you, make sure you look for that smallest standalone square. Okay? All right, now I have a great surprise for you here. All right, this is a beautiful block. Look at this. All right, this is our Bethlehem star patterns. By the way, all of our patterns in our trunk show today are free patterns at AccuQuilt.com. Now, when you look at this, tell me, quilters, what is the smallest square unit? And in this particular block, it's actually not a square. What is it? Yeah, it's right here. Okay, it is these 2 half square triangles sewn together to make a square. And actually, there are these squares here, but do they stand alone? They do not. They're part of this unit, right? Okay, so if this is the smallest square, okay, let's start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is actually an 8 by 8 grid or a 64 patch. Did any of you wake up this morning thinking, oh, Pam's going to show me how to make a 64 patch? Pretty sure you didn't, all right? So let's take a closer look at this block for a minute, because so many of you are going to say, oh, Pam, there is no way I could make that. It is going to take me forever. But actually, the grid system allows you to kind of break down the pattern so that you can sew it in sections, all right? So the center block is right here. And my question to you, quilters, is what kind of grid is it? Where's that smallest square right there, those 2 half squares triangles sewn together? So this is actually a 1, 2, 3, 4 by 1, 2, 3, 4 grid, okay? So it's a 16 patch. Now to add to the block, you would take the side units here, okay? And then you would take the corners, okay? Right? And then you would use these different units to create your block. And you would sew the middle row together, the bottom row, here we'll add some to the bottom so you can see. I'm a very visual person here, okay? All right, and then you would add your other row over here and sew them all together, all right? Now this particular block uses the 8-inch cube, so it's going to finish at 16 inches, so double the size of the cube. Now listen, there's a little math involved here which makes me happy. If you use the 9-inch cube, it's going to finish double size of that cube, so the block is going to finish to 18 inches. The 10-inch cube would be 20 inches, and if you used our 12-inch cube, it would make a 24-inch block, which is almost a medallion-size quilt, right? Oh, I just think it's so amazing. Now, the question I want to ask you is, does the grid always have to be a square shape? Does it always have to be 3 by 3 and 4 by 4? Okay, I'm going to tell you we had this huge discussion here at AccuQuilt, and we came to the decision that no, the grid doesn't necessarily have to be broken down into a square. For example, the side here, this little unit, I would totally grid this out. It's going to have a 2 by 4 grid, okay? So keep that in mind, quilters. When you're looking at a pattern, you just want to find that smallest unit, break it out. Sometimes instead of sewing long rows together, I will create 9 patches because 9 patches are easier to sew and they stay stronger in the quilt. Because let's say you have 18 pieces in a row, by the time I get to, you know, the 17th piece, it gets a little wonky. All right? All right, so let me clean up my pieces here and let's take a look at some more samples. All right. So this is a bear's paw block, and it was made with our 8-inch cube. So what is the smallest standalone unit? Yeah, that square right there in the middle. So this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if this is a 2-inch finished square, how big is my block? 14 inches, all right? So think about that, quilters. I love the fact that we can create these bigger blocks, and I love the different colorway. Next, we have twirling petals. Our good friends at Motive Fabric created this. Now, this is our 8-inch cube. And again, look at how scrappy it is. That's one of the things I love about the cubes, right? You can find all these tiny little scraps and make beautiful things out of them. All right, so let's look at some of the shapes in here. Let's first of all find that standalone square. Where is it? Right there in the center. So this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so again, I've used my 8-inch cube to make a 10-inch block. So what are the other shapes in here? Right, so look right here. This is that rectangle shape. Here's flying geese, right here, shapes 4 and 5. What shape is this, quilters? Right here in the center. Yeah, that's our chisel shape from our companion set corners. And what's the shape you need on the outside to create a rectangle? Yep, you need that shape number 5. So it's these basic 3 units over and over again to create the twirling petals. All right. Oh, this one's so big. Thank you. All right, here we go. This actually is one of my all-time favorite quilts at AccuQuilt, just because it's huge, all right? It is called the Go Cube Crazy Kites Throw Quilt. And we need to look at this block because this is a perfect example of where we've used 2 different sizes of cubes to create a pattern. All right, so let's break it down. So right here in the square, we used our 6-inch cube and our 12-inch cube. All right, so here is our 6-inch block. It's shape number 1 from the 12-inch cube. But then look right here. What are these? Yeah, these are little kite shapes that we have in our companion set angles. Here's shape number 2 from that 12-inch cube, okay? Now, this is gonna make this beautiful, beautiful block that's gonna work with the 12-inch cube, okay? So this is gonna make a 12-inch block, and we've used the kite and the outside half square rectangles to make a bigger block that is the same block as this. So this pattern is just created over and over again using the smaller size cube and the larger cubes and the same shapes. So now this one you need 2 cubes that are, one has to be twice the size of the other. So the 6 and the 12 is what this one is made of. What other 2 sets of cubes do we have that make bigger blocks or that are twice the size? Yeah, the 4 and the 8-inch cube and the 5 and the 10-inch cube. So they would make different sized finished blocks, but the shapes are the same and the pattern, you would just have to adjust the fabric. So think about that, quilters. Think about using your 2 different sizes of cubes together to make blocks. I know. Okay. Of all the quilts I want to show you today, this is the one that just amazes me every time I look at it. This is a really fun pattern called Plus Points. It's been made with our Moda fabrics, and we used our 6-inch cube to make this block. All right, now, first of all, where's the smallest standalone square? Yep, right there in the center, okay? Now, we used our cube and our companion set angles to create this block. What kind of grid is it? Well, here's my square. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, quilters, we used our large elements from the 6-inch cube. This is shape number 1, and this is shape number 3, and this is triangle and a square from the companion set angles. How big is my block? If this is 3 inches and it's a 5 by 5 grid. Yes, it is a 15-inch block. I am always amazed that I can use my 6-inch cube to make a 15-inch block. So I could also make blocks using the 5-inch cube or the 10-inch cube to make 15-inch blocks. I just love it. I just love it. All right, so quilters, today you've learned that you can expand the grid into bigger grids to make bigger blocks. You can use the smaller elements in your cube to make smaller blocks. Units can take up more than one section on the grid, just like people on an airplane. And you can put a grid within another grid. And I have one more block to show you. Okay, so now I have used my 4-inch cube right here in the center. Okay, so I used my larger elements. Where's the smallest square? Right there in the center. Here's triangle and a square, shape number 3. So this finishes to 2 inches. So 2, 4, 6. And then I used my 12-inch cube, because how big are the blocks here? 6 inches, to make an 18-inch block. 12-inch cube, 4-inch cube, I made the block within the block. Think outside the box, quilters. The cube system is going to give you so much more creativity. I just love it. All right, so let's recap. We're going to go through each size of the cube, and I'm going to tell you what size block a 2x2 grid will make and a 3x3 grid will make. So in the 4-inch cube, a 2x2 grid equals a 4-inch block or a 2-inch block. The 3x3 grid makes a 6-inch block or a 3-inch block. The 5-inch cube makes a 5-inch block or a 2.5-inch block. And the 3x3 grid allows you to make a 7.5-inch block or a 3 3/4-inch block. Look how cute that is. The 6-inch cube, the 2x2 grid, you can use a 6 or a 3-inch block. The 3x3 grid makes a 9 or a 4.5-inch block. The 8-inch cube makes an 8-inch or 4-inch block, and the 3x3 grid makes a 12 or a 6-inch block. The 9-inch cube makes a 9-inch block on that 2x2 grid and a 4.5-inch block. The 3x3 grid allows you to make a 13.5-inch square or a 6 3/4-inch square. The 10-inch cube on the 2x2 grid allows you to make a 10-inch block or a 5-inch block, and the 3x3 grid allows you to make a 15 or a 7.5-inch block. We're going to finish it off with the 12-inch cube. A 2x2 grid makes a 12-inch block or a 6-inch block, and a 3x3 grid makes an 18-inch or a 9-inch block. And remember, quilters, those are finished sizes. So as we went through the list, did you see that there were similar numbers? Could you see that there were different sizes of cubes depending on whether you use the large elements or the small elements to make the same size block? For more help using the grid system, download the Go 216 Blocks brochure. This brochure covers how to make smaller or larger finished blocks by combining different cube sizes. It's available at the bottom of the, if you go to AccuQuilt.com, go to the bottom of the Download a Catalog page under the Learn section on our website. Now, the sample that I have here, this is our final sample. It uses 4 cubes, the 6, 8, 9, and 12-inch cubes. And you're going to say to me, Pam, why does it not include blocks from the 4, 5, and 10-inch cubes? They were not built yet, all right? So let's look at this particular quilt. It's called the Go Epic Mix and Match Sampler Quilt. All right, so you can see here we've used our smaller cube and created a 4-patch, and then we took, and these are actually half square triangles. And think of the opportunity that you have to mix and match the different size cubes to create blocks that are the same size. The thing I like about this is these little prairie points right here. Sometimes I feel like as quilters, we just, everything is just 2-dimensional, and this gives it some dimension. Again, this is Go Epic Mix and Match Sampler Quilt. It's available at AccuQuilt.com. Quilters, your possibilities are truly endless when you have the cubes and you have mastered them now using the grid system. After becoming a cube master with the grid system, I'm sure you want to congratulate yourself. So why not take advantage of some of our deals? To see all of our current offers, visit AccuQuilt.com/party. Quilters, if you want to join me for more tips, tricks, and inspiration, check out our events page for future live events. Registering enters you into drawings for free door prizes. I'm Pam Heller, reminding you that at AccuQuilt we help you cut time so you can quilt more. Goodbye.